All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group meeting this morning. It's June 9th, 2023. Our agenda this morning, we'll start out with success stories. I haven't heard of any, but maybe somebody out there's got some good news to share. We'll then go to committee reports, and then we'll hear from our workshop, job fairs, practice interview team, the interview success workshop, the career tip of the week, and then we'll have our main event around the top of the hour. For those people on Zoom, if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please just send your questions or comments into the Zoom chat window. For those watching on Facebook this morning, please enter your comments into the, what happened? Did we lose our Facebook feed? Just enter your comments into the comment field. Give me just 1 second here, and let me see if I can get back to it on Facebook. Give me a second here. Oh, there we go. Whoop. All right, let me just make it big so I could see it. There we go. All right. Please note this event is being recorded and is currently live on Facebook. The recording will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel for others to view in the future. By participating in this event, you give consent for your name and picture to appear. Please note that any comments you put in the Zoom chat window will not appear in the recording. Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Jeff Morris. Since 2007, I've been facilitating and leading the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. In 2008, I started a website called careerdfw.org, a website to help those who are unemployed in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. In 2012, I launched a second website, careerusa.org, to help those around the United States. I have written a book called What I've Learned About Your Job Search You May Not Know. It is available on Amazon, or I always have copies with me in person. And since 2017, I've been a member of the practice interview team. You'll hear more about that in just a moment. Well, we like to start the meeting off with good news. Are there any landings out there? Anybody have good news they would like to share? I haven't read it yet. You want to read it? If you got it, hold on. Give us just 1 second. We do know of one landing. Your phone's off. Okay, hold on a second. Let me look up. I know we did have a landing because I got an email, but I hadn't looked at my emails this morning. Let's see here. Leon. So Leon Nesbitt said, wanted to let you know that my session of unemployment has ended. He's landed a marketing campaign manager with Windstream. He got the position mostly through networking, but I had a strong fit with the job description. It was basically the exact job I did for a number of years with Verizon. The vice president I'll be working for is also from Verizon. So far, everything is hand in glove, comfortable. I can't seem to shake telecom, but that's okay. God is good. I'm hoping this works out for a long run, but if not, I'll be ready. It was good to see familiar friends providing resources and transitions still in place. Now that it's over, I also appreciate meeting a new set of transition amigas on the journey this time around. Thanks for all you do. I'm willing to pay it forward any way I can. Have a great summer. Onward and upward, Leon. So that's our one landing for the day. Anybody else have anything they'd like to share?
Where was Leon from?
Where? He's here in the Dallas area.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome. All right. What we'd like to do now is have everybody put their 30-second introductions into the chat window. Give us your name, comma, phone, comma, email address, comma, position you're looking for, comma, a couple target companies, and then hit the return key. And then by doing this, I will update all this information. I will put it out into an email to everybody this afternoon. Look over that list, see who you can help, see if you see somebody's company, a name of a company that you maybe have a contact with that you can help somebody else on the list. So we'll give you 30 seconds on the clock. All right. If you're still typing, please continue to type away. We'd love to make sure we got everybody captured who's here with us today. I also will use that to update the roster. And if Texas Workforce Commission or your local employment office is trying to find out if you attended the meeting today, I will have a record of it. All right. What we want to do now is for those people that are here locally at the room, we're going to allow them an opportunity to give their 30-second introductions. So let me get the camera up here so you can see who's here. And go away.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jama Ball. I'm a business operations leader with global experience improving processes, teams, and operations with a focus on delivery and implementation. I'm also a Gallup trained strengths coach and mentor. I create order out of chaos. I need contacts at IHG and Amadeus. Thank you to whoever sent me the note for Epsilon. So I'm waiting to hear back. Again, my name is Jama Ball.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chandler Kim. I'm a technology and strategic alliances executive. I help companies win more and grow faster. I am looking for contacts at companies called Tannen Security and also at Splunk. And again, my name is Chandler Kim.
Very good. And then also down greeting people at the front door is Anthony Archery and who's the other person down there? Veronica. And Veronica's with us downstairs, greeting people at the front door. All right. They'll be up here in just a few minutes. All righty. Let's see here. If you know somebody who's been recently unemployed, let me turn this off. Give me a second here. So many little buttons to push. If you know somebody who's been recently unemployed, somebody who's been unemployed for a while, let them know about Career DFW and Career USA, two totally free websites that are there just to help the job seeker. There is no cost either site. Neither site collects any personal information. They're just there to help you in your job search. One of the things you'll find on the Career DFW is a group of calendars, and on those calendars this is a screenshot of all the compilation of all the different calendars on the one screen. One of the things you'll find there would be job fairs that will be listed in pink, special workshops that are happening in gold, networking meetings that are meeting in person, get out of the house, go meet people in person, or in blue, and then the events in purple or webinars that you can attend anywhere in the country. Let's talk about the practice interview team for just a second. Daniel, you want to talk about it?
So the practice interview team is a great opportunity that's provided without charge, which is always very nice, to help people get feedback on their interviewing skills. The format is to actually go through a practice interview on a position that either you are currently in the process or would like to have. You submit your resume and you actually go through an actual interview, either live or virtually, depending upon the schedule. It's a great opportunity to actually get feedback, honest feedback on your interviewing, to identify things you can work on to be even better at a very important piece of the job acquisition process. So if you'd like more information or would like to participate, just send an email to the dallaspitcrew@gmail.com and get you started. It is about a week schedule right now. It takes about a week to get on the schedule, so you don't send it, the day before you have an interview. Is not enough time to gather the resources together to do it, but definitely worthwhile and something that you might want to consider. Good luck.
Great, Chandler. Thank you very much. And just a reminder for people is that the Dallas Pit Crew is meeting in person on the first and third Wednesdays of the month. We had a great interview this past Wednesday. Next Wednesday, we will be online so that anybody can watch a practice interview. All right, time to hear about the Interview Success Workshop. Good morning, Walt.
Well, good morning. Before I get into the workshop, I was thinking this morning, maybe I ought to get a career in finance because I have years and years of experience in spending money. And I have also my major tools are cash and credit cards, and I'm getting certified with coupon use next week. Okay, on to the workshop. What's different about the interview success workshop and the pit crew? Well, the interview success workshop is a learning interview and learning how to sell who we are, what we do, and how we can help. It's very informal. It's not a mock interview. We're learning how to answer categories of questions, approaches, structures, ideas, options, and how we might respond depending on the question, who's asking, and where you are in the process. The QR code on the screen will start an email to me to say, I'd like to register for the workshop, because you need to be registered to participate. Look me up on LinkedIn. The About section gives you more information about the workshop. You can see my email and phone number right there on my landing page on LinkedIn. Be glad to have you participate. And there's no need for us to have stress, anxiety during a workshop where we are learning. We're not out there for trials. Security is not going to haul us off if we miss a question. We're just going to discuss things and figure out ways that we can better sell, because the interview is a selling situation. Call it learning without squirming. You know, we interview to get the job we dream. Who would have thunk it? Practice, we can dunk it. And that reminds me, bring those Krispy Kremes.
Thank you very much, Walt. Wonderful, wonderful. All right, it's time to hear this week's career tip of the week. You'll find a new career tip of the week on the Career DFW or Career USA websites. Every Saturday afternoon, a new tip pops up. So Rosanna, good morning, and thank you for being with us today.
Good morning, Jeff. Good morning, everybody. All right. Well, this week's tip of the week is dated June the 4th, and it's how to network without being annoying. And as I scroll through the different tips here, there are a couple that you want to pay attention to. So first, you want to use the network you already have. You want to be clear. You don't want to be afraid of a cold reach out. You want to come prepared to your initial meeting, and you want to stay in loose touch. So this article is written by Catherine Vazel, and basically she's saying networking. Just the thought of it makes you feel uncomfortable. So how do you reach out? What do you say? How do you stay in touch or stay in contact? But even if this feels awkward, networking can play a major role in advancing your career. People are nervous about networking, said Marcia Ballinger. She's the author of the 20-Minute Networking Meeting and co-founder of the executive search firm Ballinger Leafblad. She added that the majority of jobs that people land come through their network. So you should be tactful with the approach. If you go into networking telling everyone that you know that you need a job and help finding a job, people don't gravitate to that. It makes people uncomfortable. Ballinger said, if you go in and say, I want to reconnect with people, rebuild relationships, learn some things that will be valuable, and then share and contribute back, the jobs will come. If the thought of networking makes your stomach drop, here's how to make it pain-free as possible while seeking your next job. So first, use the network you already have. Even if you think you don't know people, you do know some folks. And so, and then that quote is from Kimberly Cummings, author of Next Move, Best Move, Transitioning into Your Career That You'll Love. So that means that to family, friends, mentors, sponsors, current and former coworkers, people you volunteer with are all in or are in professional organizations with, that might be able to assist you in your job search. That can include having someone pass along your resume, connect with a hiring manager, make introductions, or explain how they successfully changed careers into the industry you also want to pursue. Focus on the people you actually liked and enjoyed and had some sort of camaraderie with. Your network is the same as everybody you've ever met. And that quote was from Karen Wickery, author of Taking the Work Out of Networking. It is a set of people that you've had good feelings with or good feelings about, even if you don't know them well or your experience together was a long time ago. And that is good basis for people that you can reach out to in a friendly way. Next, you want to be clear. When reaching out to people you know directly, provide a concise background of what's going on and what you're looking for. It's a paragraph or two where you say, I am looking for this, I've done this. Now I want to do that, or I am interested in this, or I'd like my next job to be this. Help that person know how to help you. Give them something, not just, I'd like a new job and I thought you might have some ideas for me. For instance, if you applied to a role and you know someone at the company, reach out. If you have even the thinnest connection to somebody there, absolutely parlay that. You can say something like, I am looking for my next job opportunity, and I recently applied to a position at your company and was wondering if you have 15 to 20 minutes for a conversation so I can learn more about your experience. The best approach isn't, can you get me in? It's a little more than what you can share. I'd love to learn more. Anyone else you think I should connect with as part of my application process? All the people in your immediate network know people, and which can also create an extended network if they are willing to connect you with their contacts. This can lead to getting the name of a hiring manager or recruiter to directly submit your resume to. And one question to ask in every networking conversation is there anyone else in your network you feel it would be beneficial for me to meet? And if so, would you be willing to facilitate an introduction? That can immediately start opening some doors for you. And so that's a great question to keep on your radar. Next, don't be afraid of a cold reach out. Sometimes your network doesn't have to sometimes your network doesn't have what you need and you have to start from scratch. A little online research can help you find employees of a company that you're interested in working for, or professionals that you've made similar career transitions. That would be a good connection to be with. Reaching out to someone you don't know can be intimidating, but there are ways to make it seem a little more personal. Review LinkedIn and other social media pages to help find some commonality, whether it is attending the same college, doing similar volunteer work, or growing up in the same area that you can help break the ice in your initial contact. A little flattery can help, like mentioning a recent award or promotion they've received, or saying something as far as how much you enjoyed a recent post they made on LinkedIn or other social media. The key is to show that you've done your research and to be clear with what you are requesting. Don't say, I want to pick your brain. That's the worst thing you can say to someone. Excuse me. It sounds like that you are a taker and don't want to be perceived as a taker. So be more of a learner or someone who is curious and willing to go an extra mile to do what it takes to make a good first impression. Who has time to sit with someone who wants to pick their brain? Next tip is come prepared to your initial meeting. You should come prepared with a lot of questions for your networking meeting or phone call. But can I have a job isn't one of them. Research as much as you can about the person you're meeting with and the company so you can ask pointed questions. If you are meeting with someone for the first time, the goal is to learn more about their background and expertise. Ask them something you can't readily and easily find about them on the internet. To learn more about the person, she suggested that asking questions like, you've moved from finance in a corporate setting into finance in higher education. I'm also interested in higher education. Can you tell me about that transition? The goal is to establish a connection with that person. In the initial conversation, we shouldn't be focusing on asking of what ask, focusing on the ask of you wanting to get connected to a job. You want to make sure that you are connecting to that person and build that relationship first. You can mention that you are job hunting, but also remove any expectations. Give the person that you're reaching out to control over where, when, and how, such as a virtual, phone, or coffee, as far as the meeting, and then how that meeting will go. Experts agree that 20 minutes is enough time for an initial meeting. And then lastly, stay in loose touch. Networking is an ongoing process. Just meeting someone doesn't mean that you're in their network. After you've had that coffee chat, that is level 1. You are now in their attention, but not yet a friend. She suggests following up immediately by thanking them for their time, mentioning some specifics from the meeting that you found particularly helpful or interesting, and that you'd like to stay in touch. And it doesn't have to be overly complicated. Keep in loose touch. This is the key to having a good network. You are intermittently and very informally and casually in touch with people, and it doesn't have to be a two-way exchange. The good news is there's a lot of digital platforms that can help you do this. It can be sending an email about an interesting article that you think the person would like, commenting on a LinkedIn post, telling them how beautiful their vacation photos are on Instagram, or sending a direct message on Twitter. So these are several tips to not be annoying when you're building your network. So again, this article is dated June the 4th of 2023, How to Network Without Being Annoying. Have a fantastic weekend, everybody, and enjoy using those tips.
Rosanna, thank you very, very much. All right, today, lunch, you got to come eat lunch today, 11:45. If you'd like to come meet us, we'll be at Country Burger, 3115 West Parker in Plano, Texas. It's on the northwest corner of Parker at Independence. They've got burgers, salad, and chicken sandwiches. If you'd like to come join us, please do. If you're interested in a sandwich that's off to the left, it's like $33, but you need to bring your own sliced ham. They don't have sliced ham to put on that sandwich. All right, in just a moment here, we're going to hear from our speaker today, Jeff Crilley will be with us to talk about free publicity. I want to just mention our upcoming sessions, though. Next Friday, Alicia Voltmer will be with us to talk about labor law. She's a labor law attorney. She works for companies, so she would be the person who we would not be seeing. She works for the company representing their side, but she's willing to sort of talk just some basics as far as what's going on. If you have any questions about any labor law questions or that you'd like to make sure that she answers, please send me an email this week and let me know. I'll put that in my email this afternoon just to remind you, if you've got any labor law questions, send me those questions. The one thing you cannot do is mention any company names. So, she just, because you never know, it could be a company that she represents, but she'll talk about situations and stuff. So join us. It'll be really interesting next Friday. And then in 2 weeks, Mike Ray and Pete Hernandez will be with us to talk about reference solutions. Reference solutions is a great way to, how do you find target companies? Do you have a list of 100 target companies? Where do you find it at? How do you find companies that are close to what you're doing? So Mike and Pete will be with us to talk about reference solutions, a great tool. If you do not have a public library card, I recommend going and getting one, because when this presentation is going on or when it's over, you're going to want to immediately go check into your public library and get online and play with it, because it's really a very interesting tool. All right, it's time to hear from our speaker today, Jeff Crilley. He's an Emmy award-winning reporter. For those who've lived in Dallas-Fort Worth area for many years, he used to work at Fox 4, Channel 4. And then he decided that writing a book was more fun and giving speeches at places were more fun. And I guess he tells me his boss called him in one day and said, "What do you want to do? Do you want to be a reporter, or do you want to be you want to sell books and give talks?" And so what Jeff did is he went and started his own public relations firm. He's the CEO of Real News Public Relations and Real News Studios. You don't realize how many things are coming out of his PR firm now that we see every day. So Jeff, thank you very much for being with us, and I'll turn it over to you.
Absolutely. Well, I'm thrilled. And Jeff, if memory serves, I think this might be my 10th appearance. We've been doing this for a long time together, haven't we?
Yeah, I didn't go back and look on my list, but yeah, it's been a number of years. Thank you for being with us.
That's awesome. Well, I love doing this. This is one of the highlights of my year because I get to just pour into people. And so there's no agenda here other than for somebody to take a nugget or two out of my journey. And so how about before I give the story, maybe we start with where we are now. So I'm going to give you a quick little tour. We're at Lincoln Center, which is LBJ and the Tollway. That's next to the Hilton, if you guys are familiar with that area. So we're on the 7th floor of Tower 2. When you come in, you see this reception desk. You see all of these TV shows that we're doing. There's me about to do an interview with somebody last week. We're big into the snacks. So I call this the Four Seasons treatment. You know, when you go to the Four Seasons or the Ritz, have you noticed the bar snacks are really rich and upscale? This is my anchor desk. We're now producing 160 different television shows. And so you can see what it looks like on camera back there. This really does look like a news product. It's essentially podcasting meets Channel 8. So if any of you listen to podcasts, you know, they got cool a few years ago, but most people, they just want to be the host. They don't want to be the editor. And so for $500, people coming off the street, sit down, interview people, leave, and then we do the rest. We edit, we upload, we tag for $500. Each studio has a different kind of look and feel. This studio I call Joe Rogan. It's kind of a lot of leather in it. This next studio is called Chip and Joanna. It's a little softer. It's got a little kitchen island in here. And each one of the views is just spectacular with seeing traffic in the background. And this is our most glamorous studio. We call this one Oprah. You can fit 70 people in the Oprah studio. 70 people clapping looks like 700 people clapping. So about 3 days a week, we have a live studio audience in here. And it's really a nice feeling. If you can see that monitor back there, let's see. Here we go. Doesn't that look great? So 160 different television shows, all different clients coming in with different ideas for shows. This is, I call this my newsroom. We're all former journalists. So I now have 20 full-time employees, which sounds like a lot to me, especially a guy who started this in his home. This is my little studio. I do as many as 3 Jeff Crilley shows a day. You can see there's a news desk and a newsroom behind me. And so everything I'm creating in this room really truly looks like you're watching the news. The reason I'm sharing all that stuff with you is I feel like the new media is going to be just podcasting instead of begging Channel 8 or the Dallas Morning News to tell your story. You can just tell your own story. And that's why this division is in hyper growth. We started with 5 shows 4 years ago, and now we've got 160 different television shows, studios in Dallas, Fort Worth, South Lake, Grandscape, which is up by Nebraska Furniture Mart. And 1 month ago, we opened Austin. Okay, so let's begin at the beginning. And if there's going to be a theme through the talk, it's just hard work pays off. So I'm going to begin the story in college. I got an internship at a small CBS station in Lansing, Michigan. So I went to Michigan State from 81 to 86. And my sophomore year, I figured out you could get an internship. And I just decided, man, they're going to have to drag me kicking and screaming out of here. I'm not leaving. And so I was paying the college for the privilege of working for free. If anybody's had an internship, you remember what that's like. So I was getting, I think I was required to work 20 hours a week. And I just had it in my mind, I'm gonna outwork every other intern they've ever had. And at the end of the internship, they're going to give me a job. I just saw it very clearly. You know, they always say great basketball players can see the ball going in the net before it leaves their hand. I saw very clearly the boss was going to say, man, you're the most amazing intern we've ever had. So instead of 20 hours a week, I was working 80 hours a week. I would clean toilets in the dorms to make money, so I didn't have to have my dad, pay for my college. And then in the afternoons, I'd jump on my little moped with my little suit and helmet, and I would scooter over to the TV station, and I would work from basically 1 PM until after the 11 o'clock news. And then I'd wake up the next day and scrub those toilets again. So the internship was supposed to last 10 weeks, and something went wrong. At the end of the 10 weeks, my news director wasn't following the script that I had written. The script was very clear. At the end of 10 weeks, he comes up to me, shakes my hand, and says, "Jeff Crilley, would you give us the honor of joining our team?" That didn't happen. And so I had a crisis. I knew that if I told the news director that the internship was over, I was going to have to leave, and I wasn't sure I could ever get back again. And so I came up with this plan that is a ill-fated plan. It couldn't work for long. I just decided not to tell the news director that it was over, and I just kept coming in day after day, week after week. I was 15 weeks into a 10-week internship when I was busted. So news director's walking down the hallway, and he's kind of a gruff. If you remember the Mary Tyler Moore show, he was Lou Grant. He was just a kind of old curmudgeon, always muttering under his breath and scowling. I never saw the man with a smile on his face. And he mutters under his breath as he's passing me, "Crilley, this is a long internship, man. When is this thing over?" And I kind of whispered sheepishly, "It was over 5 weeks ago." And he turned around very confused, and he walked over and said, "Say that again?" I said, "It was over 5 weeks ago." He said, "Come into my office." And this might have been the scene in the movie where he calls security because essentially I was trespassing at this point. I'm not technically, on the college insurance plan. I'm not really on their insurance plan. I'm basically a trespasser at this point. So he says to me, he says, so Crilley, hold on. Let me make sure I understand this. This internship was over 5 weeks ago? I said, "That's right." He says, "And we're not paying you, right?" I said, "That's right." And he says, "And at this point, you're not even getting college credit." I said, "That's right." He says, "Crilley, what in the heck are you doing here?" And I kind of reached into my belly, and I found that gut strength that I said to him with tears in my eyes. I said, "Don't make me leave. Please don't make me leave. This is the air that I breathe. This is the food that I eat. I eat, sleep, and breathe this place. Please don't make me leave." And he just saw this passion he had never seen before. And he says, "Look, I do believe that hard work pays off, and I've got to reward this kind of determination. Crilley, we don't have a position for you, but I'm going to make a position for you. I don't know what we're gonna call you. It could be newsroom assistant. It could be executive lackey, but it only pays minimum wage, which at that point was $2.35 an hour. Some of you old enough to remember when minimum wage was $2.35 an hour, and I was overjoyed. I practically kissed him, leapt over the desk and kissed him, but he was Lou Grant, so I couldn't do that. But it did mean that I didn't have to clean toilets anymore. And that was a big victory. And so I become this newsroom assistant, essentially getting paid minimum wage for what I was gleeful to do for free anyway. And about another 2 months into this, the newsroom had a crisis. And the crisis was 3 of the 5 reporters called in sick. Now think about that. At that point, we had a morning show, like a 1-hour morning show. We had a noon show. We had a 6 o'clock show and an 11 o'clock show. But we only had 2 reporters to do stories that day. So that's a crisis. And so I was always there in early, dressing for the job that you want, not the job you have. So I had a suit on and a tie on, and I'm at this point, I'm probably 19 years old. And when I saw that there was a crisis and he didn't have enough reporters, I smiled my big smile and I said, "Put me in, coach. I know the plays." And he scowled at me and he says, "No, Crilley, this is not happening. You're not going on the air." And he goes into his little office and he starts calling these reporters who had already called in sick. And I could hear him. He was raising his voice and he says, How sick are you really? All we got is Crilley." And then he would kind of poke his head out the door, and I would be smiling and waving. And he says, no, Crilley, just don't even think about it. It's not happening. And after about 15 minutes of calling all these people, he comes over to me with this 3/4-inch tape. This is an old story. And he hands me the tape, and with a great deal of confidence, he says, don't suck. And so I went out and I did a story that for that night's news. And about 15 minutes before 6 o'clock, he's in the editing room, and I'm showing him the story that I put together. And he looks at me. He never smiled. I don't really remember the man smiling. He said, it doesn't suck. And they put it on the air. And the next thing you know, I'm a part-time reporter, then a full-time reporter, then a weekend anchor. And then I went from Lansing to Omaha. Let me think. Lansing to Omaha, Omaha to Minneapolis, and then finally on to Dallas in 1992. But there's a story that Jeff likes me to tell. When I am in Minnesota and I'm trying to get out of Minnesota to get a job in Dallas, I came up with this idea. What if I made a home video message to send to Dallas in addition to my resume tape? So a resume tape is typically, you show them the murder story and it gets a little lighter. And then the last story is you eating corny dogs at the Minnesota State Fair. But I decided to add a home video message to the top of it so it would separate me from all the other people applying for that job. And so I remember it was Halloween Day. This would have been around 1991, Halloween Day. And we got 2 feet of snow in Minnesota. The kids were trick-or-treating in 2 feet of snow. My daughter, Sarah, who's now my vice president, she's now 33. She was maybe 2, was playing in the snow. I saw this as a great opportunity to get some sympathy from people in Dallas. So I got my wife, Susan, to run the camcorder, and I would make a personal introduction to the 3 different news directors. Fox hadn't come along yet. It was just ABC, NBC, and CBS. And so I would say, hi, Mike, Jeff Crilley from Minneapolis. My wife, Susan's running the camcorder. You can see my little daughter, Sarah, is playing in the snow. She's having fun, but this is no way to live life. This is Halloween Day. I'm going to be trick-or-treating with my 2-year-old daughter in 2 feet of snow. You got to rescue me, man. You got to rescue me. Here's my latest work. And then I would show, 2, 3 stories, and then I'd come back out and I'd say, listen, Mike, I'm going to keep sending you stories week after week, month after month, until you finally break down and hire me. But I know that you like aggressive reporters, and I'm not going to give up on you the same way I wouldn't give up on a story if you hired me. I'll see you next month. And this went on for a year and a half. Every single month, it was a new videotape from Dallas. And he later told me after he hired me that the Channel 4 news director told me that in his mind, he had hired me some 6 months earlier. He just didn't get around to telling me. And furthermore, he enjoyed the tapes from Minnesota because it was a way to remind all the lazy reporters in Dallas that here is a man in Dallas or a man in Minnesota who is exploiting his children just to get a job. He embellished the story. I don't think my daughter could actually bag at that point, but he says, yeah, he had his daughter in 2 feet of snow saying, please hire my daddy. I mean, it was a great idea. I wish I had done that. That would have been really good. So I get to Dallas, and I have this amazing career in Dallas where I got to free an innocent man from prison. I won a couple of Emmy Awards. I did almost everything you could possibly want to do in the TV news world. And I wrote this book in 2002. I'm going to share my screen with you because this will empower you. When I wrote this book about publicity, I wasn't sure exactly how I was going to promote it, but I knew I should probably do some speaking. So I said to my boss at Channel 4, I said, look, I've written this book. I'd like to go around and I'd like to speak to promote the book. And they said, okay, you're fine speaking, but just know that you cannot accept a speaker's fee. And I said, well, how's this going to work? Because when I was writing the book, I was cashing little checks in my mind. And they said, so we don't really want you taking checks from people, because what would happen if, you got a big check from Exxon and then the next day Greenpeace is protesting Exxon? Jeff, we don't want to worry about your integrity. And so just speak for free to promote your book. Well, what they didn't realize is that they unleashed an entrepreneur on the world. In order to make any money selling a $10 book, I had to make it up in volume. So you're looking at a guy who gave 300 speeches for 6 straight years, in addition to my TV job. Breakfast speech, lunch speech, go to work at Fox 4. Breakfast speech, lunch speech, go to work at Fox 4. I was, I sold 70,000 copies of a $10 book. And this business was born because as you're speaking and selling books, people are complaining about their PR firm. They're saying, I can buy your little $10 book, Crilley, but I can't, I'm not going to do this myself. And my PR firm sucks. Could I just hire you? And I said, no, I'm on TV. I can't take your money. And they said, all right, well, if you ever get tired of TV news, I want to be your very first client. And I kept hearing this over and over and over again. And then I finally said, okay, I'm covering murders and fires every night on Channel 4. I think it's time that I got my wife's permission to quit, and I started this thing in my home. You see how big the company has grown, but in the very early days, I didn't have a physical office. I'm working out of my home. This was my very first client, and I'm going to show this to you, and then I'll tell you how I was able to do this.
Right now, there's a lot more questions than answers.
Clint David is a Dallas attorney.
Dallas attorney Clint Davis.
He's attorney Clint David.
Lawyer Clinton David says the landmark ruling could have a major impact in Dallas.
It completely changes how the Corps of Engineers, I believe, is going to do business in the future.
Employment attorney. I'm going to pot it down. So Clint David, he's now retired, but he actually officed in this building. And I remember my daughter at the time was maybe 19 years old, and she drove with me to this shiny building when, you know, the company is working out of my house. And she says, Daddy, will we one day be in a big shiny building like this? And I said, one day, Sarah, one day. And here, as fate would have it, we're in the very same building that Clint used to office in. And I think we take up more space than he did at the time. So the reason I'm telling you this story is that I'm a tireless worker. We got Clint 500 media placements in the first year. I do it because every single day I get up at 5 a.m. to begin my day. I told you there's a theme to this. It's hard work pays off. So this is Clint on the national news. He got a regular gig with Fox where every Tuesday and Thursday they'd drive him down to downtown Dallas. He'd talk live to the nation. So at the end of the first year, he says, hey, Jeff, I've got good news and bad news. And I was confused. I was like, man, he's on the news every night. What is he talking about, bad news? I said, well, go ahead. Give me the good news first. He says, okay, Crilley, the good news is you got me 500 media placements in the first year. 500. Should have been 700. I had a firm to run, had to turn some down. I said, so what could possibly be the bad news? He says, Jeff, I just don't need you anymore, man. They call me direct. And I'm such a pleaser. I didn't even hear I got fired. Most people would have heard they lost money. I didn't hear that. I heard praise. So I said, man, I need to hear that every day for the rest of my life. And the only way to hear that every single day for the rest of my life is to take on clients that I can make deliriously happy. So I told you I get up every morning at 5 to begin my day. Same thing as this morning. You can see that's today's date. I'm going to make this a little bit larger, and then I'm going to scroll down. So on the right-hand side is fun stuff. So she works for me. Laura works for me. I'm saying to the journalists, if you need help finding an expert in any category, call Laura. She'll go to work for you. Blooper of the day, celebrity birthdays. On this day in history, Secretariat won the Belmont by 31 links. Random trivia, viral video of the day. Today is National Donald Duck Day. How much is this rare check from Elvis Presley worth? And the weird story of the day. So the stuff on the right-hand side is simply candy, so journalists won't delete me, because every single morning I end up spamming another 10 reporters, which is dangerous. If any of you are into email marketing, Constant Contact, they have some kind of algorithm where if you got 2 or 3 spam reports in a single day, they would lock up my account and say, Mr. Crilley, please call this 1877 number to explain why you got so many spam reports today. So by giving the candy, the bloopers on the right-hand side, I keep journalists from opting out. So I had to lead with something. So I led with the Trump indictment. And then what I do is I kind of glide them down to my expert. So my expert is a political strategist, and Raven pays me to get her on the news. Raven averages something like 40 media placements a month, which is That's a year's worth of PR for most PR firms. I can do that in a single month because of this. This second study, I think some of you would find interesting. 35% of Gen Xers have less than $10,000 saved. And I find that frightening because I'm the tail end of the baby boomers. I was born in 1963. Well, I think baby boomers only go to 1964, and then it becomes Gen X. So I say to the journalists, this is an alarming study because the oldest Gen X, 1965, is just a few years away from retirement. Bill Dindy is a popular CPA and money manager. Here's what he looks like. Here's his cell phone. And then the final story, this is alarming. Apparently those sugar substitutes we've been taking all these years. I don't know about you, but I always reach for the Diet Coke instead of the regular Coke. Apparently it has some ill effects for your gut and can damage your DNA, increasing your cancer risk. And so I have this little narrative here that says, what does this study actually say? Are you better off choosing regular Coke than Diet Coke? And then my expert is a anti-aging guy. And so that picture is not his grandson. That's his son. He's 64 years old, just had a new baby boy. So the reason I'm sharing this with you is hard work always pays off. It just does. People say, do you write that all by yourself? I say, I do write it all by myself. And they're like, you could probably hire that out. So the average open rate for spam is less than 1%. Let me show you my open rate. Let's see. Oops, sorry. Here we go. The average open rate for spam is 1%. I have a 19% open rate for spam. That's ridiculously high. And journalists trust me. So this tells me that 10% of my list have already opened me up, which means by midnight, I could easily get to 19%. 2,600 journalists have read me so far. This allows me to see when I first added them to my list and how often they're reading me. So let's just take this one. This is Hearst. Hearst is a big television network. September of last year, I added this person. And this person reads me 42% of the time. Carla Wade, I actually recognize her name because she used to be a reporter and anchor at Channel 8 here in Dallas. So a takeaway from this part of the speech is find something that you love and do it with gusto. Do it better than anybody's ever done it before. I think Dr. Martin Luther King famously said, if you are a street sweeper, do it with such excellence that even all the angels in heaven will bow down and say, there goes a great street sweeper. So whatever you feel like you're born to do, do it and do it with gusto. I know I just remembered another story that Jeff likes me to tell. So my wife is, she's now the head of marketing at Highland Park Village. But at one point she was a TV reporter just like me. I was a TV reporter at Channel 4 and she was a TV reporter at Channel 33. And she was in Wichita Falls. And I was trying to get her out of Wichita Falls because I did something fairly crazy. I commuted from Wichita Falls to Dallas every single day for 11 months, which is not healthy on your body. I'm 11 years older than my wife. I was 33. She was 22. She got that first TV job in Wichita Falls, and I lost my mind. I said, I'm going to move in with her, and I'm just going to commute to Dallas. The problem with that is I was the morning show reporter, which means I had to be live at 6 a.m. in Dallas. So you can do the math. I would leave Wichita Falls. I'd wake up at about 2, shower, get on the road by 2:30, hopefully get down to Dallas right about the time that the photographer was meeting me at the live shot. My idea of bliss was getting a 15-minute catnap in the car before the photographer arrived. I'd go do my stories for that day. And then I would go back to editing, and then I would leave Dallas at about 2:30 in the afternoon. Well, I get up to Wichita Falls right about the time the 6 o'clock news is ending, and she's ready to party. She's 22 years old. So she'd be like, yeah, let's go to El Chico, have a couple margaritas. And I'm at this point, I'm 33, but I feel like I'm 75. I'm like, yeah, let's go to El Chico. And then my eyes would flutter during the 10 o'clock news in Wichita Falls, and then I would have to wake up 2 or 3 hours later and do it all over again. Okay, so the pizza story. So as I'm desperate to get her out of Wichita Falls, and she could tell I was sleep deprived and she needed me to go back to regular hours again. I was reading this book. It was called 303 Offbeat Ways to Get a Job. And one of the tips was take a pizza, an $8 cheese pizza, doesn't have to be expensive. Take your resume, flip it upside down, put it on top of the pizza box, and write in big bold letters, hire me, I always deliver. So I delivered this pizza to Channel 33 in Dallas. And at this point in my career, I think I'd been on TV for about 10 years in Dallas. And normally I loved it when people recognized me. But on this day, I was like, please don't recognize me. I mean, what would they think? You know, how hard are times at Fox 4 when the reporters are out delivering pizzas during the lunch hour? So I deliver this pizza, and 5 minutes later, her pager goes off. That dates this story. And the news director says, okay, pizza girl, you got my attention. What are you doing tomorrow? She says, I am driving to Dallas tomorrow to do an interview with you. He said, awesome. So she got the job at Channel 33 and never looked back. But that's an example of a gimmick that you can do. Sometimes, depending on where you're applying, a gimmick can work. Now, that would not work at a stuffy, stodgy, conservative law firm. But in any kind of creative endeavor, marketing, public relations, TV news, that thing actually works. You know, you guys have heard of other ways to do it. You take a shoe, you put it in a shoe box along with your resume, just trying to get my foot in the door. There's some corny ones out there, but there's something to be said for being aggressive, just as I was being aggressive with, my job search. I encourage all of you to, really get super aggressive. But let's do this, Jeff. Why don't you've heard my speech so many times, Jeff. If there's a story that I left out, I'm happy to tell it, or we could start to take questions, or I could do some friendly coaching.
Well, we'll take questions. If anybody has questions, if you've got one online, you're welcome to unmute your mic, or anybody online have a question or a comment? How about here in the room? Question, comment? No, they've been chuckling along with your,
well, thank you.
when you're on Zoom, but yes, I mean, here in the room, at least we've been chuckling at at many of your stories.
Thank you. Well, if you want, I could tell some more stories. So one of my most aggressive things that I did trying to get the job in Dallas is I would fly to Dallas pretty much like unannounced, and I would bluff my way into interviews at the 3 TV stations, 4, 5, and 8. How would I bluff my way in? We would stay at a little bed and breakfast in Ennis, Texas. That was where I wanted to live. My grandmother lived in Ennis, and I liked that little Mayberry RFD community. And so we would rent a bed and breakfast for 2 weeks, and then I would start smiling and dialing, and I would call the news director's secretary, and I said, hey, Christy, it's Jeff Crilley from Minneapolis. How are you doing? Great. Same as I was yesterday when you called. Hey, Christy, listen, I will buy you a donut and coffee if there's any way you could sneak me in to see Mike, even for just a couple of minutes, please. No, Jeff, today's not a good day. Mike is way too busy to see you. Okay, all right, Christy, I'm calling you back tomorrow at the same time. She says, looking forward to it, Jeff. Hey, Christy. So this one time, I felt like it was it was a wasted trip if I couldn't get in to see all three news directors. I was successful to getting into channel 4, and I was successful in getting into channel 8, but I couldn't get the news director from channel 5 to see me. And at this time, I was out getting super aggressive on the research piece. And one of the things that people don't do when they apply for a job is they don't do enough homework, not just on the company, but on the person that you're going to be interviewing with. And so this is pre-Google. I went to the Dallas Public Library, and they had a clipping service of the 3 different stations. And so you could read about each one of the stations going back to the 50s. And I photocopied, I spent about 50 bucks on Xerox from the library. And I made files for the 3 stations, channel 4, channel 5, channel 8. And I memorized it like I was studying for a final exam. And as I was studying the channel 8 file, I found this story about the SMU death penalty. Do you guys remember when SMU got the death penalty for broadcasting? No, they got the death penalty for paying players, which ironically is now legal. So Dale Hansen, the famous sportscaster from Channel 8, had broken the story, and he was the one who got all the credit for the death penalty story. He got a Peabody Award that year, Emmy Awards, but he had a right-hand man, and I'm blanking on his name, but it was John something. All right. So as I'm reading this article about this John, the producer for Dale Hansen, I'm memorizing his name. So I finally get rejected by Channel 5 once again. I mean, I spent 2 weeks trying to get in to see the news director, Dave Overton, at Channel 8. And for some reason, I could not get in to see him. And so then I did something really kind of crazy, very super aggressive. I just showed up in the lobby with a big book. And I announced to the receptionist, my name is Jeff Crilley. I've been trying to get in to see Dave Overton for the last 2 weeks. I know he's a very busy man. My plane doesn't take off until 5 o'clock this evening. I don't know what Dave Overton looks like. If you would do me a favor, I would like to just sit in your lobby for the next 8 hours. And I would like to read my book. I won't bother anyone, I promise. But if you see Dave Overton going out to lunch or something like that, would you point him out to me? Because I really don't know what he looks like. Okay, well, she took pity on me. She probably didn't want me cluttering up her lobby all day either. So she took pity on me, and she called back to Dave Overton, and she said, would you please see this kid for 30 seconds? Just see him so he's not sitting in my lobby all day. And so the next thing I know, she's saying, Dave Overton will see you now. And so I go back to Dave's office, and he says, hey, Jeff, look, I get it. I used to be you. I can remember interviewing for jobs and wanting it so bad I could taste it. And I admire your tenacity that you just showed up here without an appointment. I admire that. I honestly don't have time to talk with you. Let me introduce you to my number 2 guy. Let's just call him John Brown. So I'm going to introduce you to my number 2 guy, John Brown. And I looked at him and I was like, I know that name. You're not the same John Brown who won the Peabody Award for Dale Hansen on the SMU player scandal, are you? And he smiled this big smile, and he says, why, yes, I am, son. Come into my office. Let's talk. And so I consider it the best job interview I've ever done. The secret to a good job interview is to avoid talking about yourself until the person has already checked several boxes. Know, like, trust. So I was talking about his favorite subject, which was him. And he was talking about, all the awards he's won and what it was like doing the Peabody Award winning story. And then towards the end of the interview, I said, man, I would do anything to see the face of the athletic director when you sprung it on him that you actually had proof that they were paying players. And he says, well, if you have just a couple of minutes, I happen to have that tape here. And he put it in the machine, and I watched it and was complimenting him on the writing, because as a producer, I knew he wrote the script. And just at the very end of this interview, he says, well, Jeff, tell me a little bit about yourself. And I gave him, 3-4 minutes, and he says, well, thank you so much, Jeff. I got to go. It's been really nice to meet you. So we spent, if I had to guess, it was a 50-minute interview. We spent 3 minutes talking about me, 47 minutes talking about him. Get on the plane, go back to Minnesota. And by the time I got back, I listened to my answering machine, and the 3 of my references had called me saying, hey, I think you're going to get a job at Channel 5 in Dallas. I just got a call from this John Brown, and he seemed very high on you. So the reason I'm telling you that story is I think we all kind of make a mistake when it comes to job interviews. We end up talking about ourselves, and that's really not human nature. Like if Jeff and I were to go to a bar and we wanted to meet somebody, if I went up to the person at the bar and started bragging about how wonderful I am and how many awards that I've won and how big my company is, there's no way I get a phone number, right? That's a big turnoff. I would be much more likely to get the phone number if I started asking about them and was absolutely genuinely interested in them and asked thoughtful follow-up questions. So I'm asking the room, why is it that we forget this when we get into a job interview? We're so anxious to tell them what we've done and how wonderful we are that we forget that, everybody's favorite subject is themselves. And we're all wearing the same t-shirt. It says, make me feel special. And so how do you do that? These days with LinkedIn and Google, there's nothing you can't find out about somebody. So what I would do when I would meet these news directors, I'd bring my little file with me and I'd say, hey, the reason I want to work for Channel 4 is you guys have always been the news leader. Do you know that you guys were the first ones with the helicopter? Do you guys know that you guys were the first ones with the satellite truck? And then I would do the same thing for Channel 8. The reason I want to work for you is you've always been the news leader. You were, I'm telling them what they want to hear, but I could back it up with evidence to, that I knew that they would like.
Jeff, we do have a question. Rusty, where does social media fit into your communication strategy for your clients? What platforms typically give you the highest return on investment?
I like LinkedIn just because it's a more professional audience. So like when I do my little Jeff Crilley show, most of my views come on LinkedIn. We got the ability to go LinkedIn live, which means anytime I launch a show, 12,000 phones vibrate. I have about 12,000 followers on LinkedIn. So 12,000 phones vibrate. And, if you're like me, your phone vibrates, you kind of glance down to see if somebody's texting you. And so 12,000 people, sometimes 3 times a day, are exposed to this Jeff Crilley is live, which keeps me top of mind for all things marketing, top of mind for all things podcasting. And so because I'm so aggressive interviewing people, if you think about this, I'm interviewing people who share it across their platforms. And so now when I go into any networking room, most people say, hey, Jeff, I've heard all about you. Didn't you used to work with Clint David, the attorney? And didn't you just recently interview Joe Blow on your show? And of course, I remember you from your Channel 4 days. One of the things that happens just in general is if you hear about somebody or something 3 times in a short period of time, it really feels like everybody's talking about you. And so I remember after leaving TV news, I got a voicemail from somebody and I saved it for a long time until I got a new phone and I lost this voicemail. But here's how the voicemail went. It said, well, Jeff Crilley, I guess I got to meet you because 3 people in my life who do not know each other have said to me in the last 24 hours, have you met Jeff Crilley? And that impresses me because we've got about 7-8 million people in Dallas-Fort Worth. For 3 people who don't know each other to ping one person in 24 hours tells me how busy I've been. So the lesson for everybody on this room is yes, there are social media platforms that can amplify your messages. If I was going to use social media and I was in between opportunities, I would put out videos that offer tips and demonstrate your expertise. Not hire me videos, but more like if you're in HR and you're trying to get a job in HR, you could put together a tip video on, we'll call it office politics. Hey, beware, these days with such a polarized nation, both in terms of social issues, culture wars, and, the divisiveness of politics, beware about people coming into the office with paraphernalia on their desk, because it could be inviting harassment. And so, do you see what I just did? You're posting stuff on social media, on your LinkedIn, if that's your best platform, that would cause the person who's about to interview you they're going to look at your social anyway. They want these days. Jeff, you probably know the statistic better than I do, but I think it's something like 70 to 80% of employers will look at your social media just to see if there's anything inappropriate there or anything that they need to know about. So absolutely scrub your social media if there's any pictures on there that are not flattering or posts that are not flattering. And then start posting stuff that you would want an employer to see, including, your take on the position that you're applying for. Does that help?
Yes. So you said, LinkedIn is what you would consider your primary. What about others? I mean, I know that every time you're on Facebook, my phone vibrates on Facebook. I guess I'm not following you on LinkedIn.
Yeah. So Facebook would be my number 2. Twitter would be my number 3. What I do like about Facebook is you can boost it for a small amount of money. And so I'll give you an example. My wife's best friend, her name is Kimberly Woodard, and she does a TV show with us. And it's about things going on in Collin County, because she wants to be the queen of Collin County real estate. So she did her first episode some 4 years ago, and she interviewed my wife on the first episode. And after the episode was finished, she looked down and there were only 11 views on Facebook. And she came to me and she said, Jeff, this is kind of embarrassing. I mean, I can't even show anybody at the country club. There's only 11 people that saw this thing. And I said, well, how many, who needs to see it? And she says, well, I'm a luxury home realtor. I'd like rich people in Collin County to see the show. I said, okay, what do you consider rich? She says, let's say a household income of 500,000 and above. And so I went to my son, who's my social media guru here. And I said, hey, son, don't go crazy. Let's throw 20, 30 bucks and boost this show that Kimberly just did out to everyone in Collin County with a household income of 500,000 and above. And 20 or 30 bucks took her from 11 views to 2,000 views. And when I saw that, I was blown away. That's not, you can set a advertising budget that's modest, like 20 bucks, and amplify your Facebook posts to people who in their job description has HR director or, CEO. And you can actually tell Facebook, this needs to be shown to companies with at least 50 employees and above, and show it to people with CEO in their title or hiring director or recruiter. You can actually, tell Facebook, only show this to these people.
Okay. So, I mean, I don't want to keep you much longer. I just, sort of sum up here. Anybody else any questions? Yeah, go ahead. Hold on. Grab the mic here. Just 1 second here.
Good tips, Jeff. If you've never done a video posting, for a first-time video poster, what tips can you give us?
Good lighting. So I'm lucky right now because I've got great lighting. But in the room that you guys are in right now, it's kind of a gray light, and nobody, everybody has raccoon eyes in a room with gray light. Now, if I did not have these fancy studios, what I would do is I would use the light from the window. So you don't look at how now I'm getting blown out because of direct sunlight. But if I step back a little bit, it's diffuse lighting, and it's all coming from the sun hitting this window and then spreading out. So diffuse lighting is great. I'm a fan of depth. So one of the reasons why this shot looks attractive to you guys is there's another, 50 yards behind me. Sometimes people do videos and they're right up against the wall. So like this shot is not as flattering. Do you see what I'm doing right now? This looks like it could be a mug shot. This shot is much more flattering because you've got infinity behind us. So you can do it on your phone these days. I mean, you don't have to buy really fancy equipment. You might consider buying a little ring light. They don't cost much. You can go to Amazon, get a $20, $30 ring light that will do just fine. Make sure that your audio is good. Don't do it in a room that's very hollow. A lot of people will choose a room that they think is cool because it's got a lot of marble, but then it sounds very echoey. So what you really want to do is you want to do your posting in a room with curtains. In fact, this big curtain we have here, the reason we have this curtain here is that during our shows, we draw the curtain because it absolutely deadens the sound. Like when I'm doing a video and I'm talking into this curtain, it's killing all the sound. The sound just dies. So if I was going to do a video for somebody, if you don't have curtains or pillows or something you can throw up around the computer, find something. I remember during COVID, when I was at home, my little man cave is where I do most of my work at home. But it doesn't have the acoustics that we have here. And so I would actually just get a couple of cushions and I put the cushions right behind the monitor. And it was amazing how the cushions could kill the sound so it wasn't echoey.
I also see you've got tiles on the ceiling that help kill the sound also.
Yeah, we had to really experiment. Some of our studios, we've carpeted the walls. Let me show you one of the studios. So this studio, we actually carpeted the walls just to deaden the sound. And then with that track lighting there, it makes it very dramatic, doesn't it?
Yes. And I guess because you have glass in all the studios to look out backwards, that, the glass bounces the sound. So you want that.
Yeah, if anybody ever wants a tour of Real News, I'll give you my, or Jeff can share my email with you. Just send me an email and we're always giving tours to people. So if this is interesting to you at all, I will leave you with this idea. The hosting a television show is the best way to meet people for the rest of your life. So the reason I do 3 shows a day is not because I need to be on television. If I wanted to be on television, I would have stayed at Channel 4. I do it because it's so lucrative. And I'm going to be completely transparent with you. People that I would never get to meet, I get to meet by sending an email, and the subject line is media request. It's a beautiful opening subject line because everybody answers it. And so there's a young lady who'll be coming in here in a few minutes that I found from the Dallas Business Journal. She had written an article for the DBJ, and it just so happens that we host the Dallas Business Journal's TV show. In fact, I just saw the publisher walk in. You want to see something kind of cool? We host the Dallas Business Journal's TV show because everybody who's coming in is somebody I probably want to meet. So, yeah, this is the gentleman facing us is the publisher of the Dallas Business Journal. And probably before the guest leaves. I'm going to find out who that person is because that person needs to come on my TV show.
All about it.
Yeah.
All right.
So, yeah.
Jeff, last tips you'd like to, give job seekers on what they should.
I would put a note on your mirror, or when you're brushing your teeth, and the note says, "What am I doing today to get that job?" You just need to every single day, because believe me, I mean, there were times when I'm desperate to get out of Minnesota. I need to get to Dallas. I was dying. I mean, you would wake up in the morning and the weather guy would say, "Hey, we're expecting a high today of 17 degrees below zero." I'm like, oh my God, it's not even going to break zero. And so I was really desperate to get out of Minnesota. But the only thing that kept me from losing my mind is every day it felt like I was doing something to get a little closer. I was doing some research. I was starting to put together my next, home video message from Minnesota. I was always doing something that made me feel like I was getting closer to my dream. And so if you have that note in your mirror that says, "What am I doing today to get that job?" It kind of reminds you, yeah, if I'm not doing anything today to get that job, it's not necessarily just going to fall from the heavens right into my lap. You gotta work it.
There was a question that popped up on the chat going, can we get a link to subscribe to the daily newsletter that you shared?
I'm happy to.
I'll tell you what, I will email you. I'll get the link and then I'll put it out this afternoon to everybody who's on the call.
That's awesome. Well, thank you all. You guys are wonderful. Jeff, thanks for always inviting me back. And I hopefully there was a nugget or two that you can use in your job search.
Jeff, thank you very, very much. Thank you for your time.
You
All
bet.
right.
God bless.
What we're doing next week. Let's see here. Come on. Here we go. There we go. Next week, our speaker will be Alicia Voltmer. She's going to talk about labor law. I'll put in my email this afternoon. I'll remind everybody next week. If you have any questions that you would like her to answer, anything specific, please send me the email so she can either research or to make sure she includes it in her talk. Just remember, no specific companies. We can't mention any company names because we never know what company she may be working for, and she doesn't want to jeopardize any of her comments. All right, let's see here. If you have not put your 30-second introductions into the chat window, please do so that I know you're here. If you haven't filled out a little slip of paper, please do that if you're here in person. That way I'll be sure to get this information to everybody this afternoon. I'll get that link from Jeff. I will include Jeff's email address. So if you want to reach out to Jeff, and I've not seen his studios. His studios used to be on the first floor. Now that they're up on the 7th, I'm going to have to go make my own little reservation to go see him because I'd like to see how he's expanded. I mean, it's really pretty amazing how he's grown his business. All right, Career DFW and Career USA, we're putting on training 4 days a week. Please join us next Tuesday for LinkedIn Tuesday. Ruth Lipsky will be with us to talk about how to drive recruiters to your LinkedIn profile. Ruth works for Leheck Harrison. She works with job seekers on a daily basis, and she'll just provide some really great information next Tuesday. Next Wednesday, the practice interview team will be meeting online. We will be on Zoom only, and you'll be able to watch an actual practice interview. So if you want to schedule an interview, please reach out to DallasPitCrew.com. But please join us. It's fascinating. Just watching somebody else being interviewed is a learning experience, even if you don't want to be interviewed yourself. But, don't wait until you have an interview. Go ahead and schedule one now. And then next Thursday, being the third Thursday of the month, we're going to talk about effective resumes. Rick Gillis, who was with us about a month and a half ago, will be talking strictly just about the accomplished-based resume. I think I really picked up from some things from him back then and stuff that I highly recommend for every job seeker, what your resume should contain and what it should have, and just some little tricks that he's got. So join us next Thursday for that presentation. This session has been recorded. You will be able to go back and watch it on the Career DFW Facebook page or the Career USA YouTube channel. On the Career USA YouTube channel, please subscribe to it. If you do, every time we post a new video, you'll find out about it. If If you follow us on Facebook, follow us on Facebook every time we go live, you'll find out we're doing it. I know we have a few people who join us on Facebook all the time. But here on the Career USA YouTube channel, click on playlist. I have over 500 and I think 10 or 515 videos posted currently. And that's sort of hard to find, but every video that I upload goes into a playlist. So if you select the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group speakers, click on view full playlist. Don't click on the video, but click where that red circle is. Up will come a list of the dates in chronological order and their topics. You can scroll down and watch any topic you want. Just remember that our speakers start about 25 to 30 minutes into the video. Join us today for lunch, 11:45 Country Burger, 3115 West Parker Road. It's on the corner of Parker and Independence. Burger, chicken, salad, and more. Come join us for that. It's an opportunity for you to, really get to know somebody and meet people who are out also in job market, who are in job search. Thank you for joining us today, everybody. Have a great weekend, and we will see you all next week.